Everywhere I go, I see his face. Pedro Pascal. Welcome, everyone. Today we are going to talk about a person that I'm sure you've heard of because he is absolutely everywhere, Pedro Pascal. And there's a reason why this video is called We Need to Talk About Pedro Pascal, because it's a lot. It's a lot of thoughts that I have on this guy. He's an actor who originally I didn't have any sort of strong opinion on. He certainly was in a lot of stuff even 5 years ago, but I just didn't think two ways about it. You know, it's kind of typical. An actor stars in a popular TV show like The Mandalorian, and he gets a lot of work. The same thing happened with Benedict Cumberbatch after he did Sherlock. He was absolutely everywhere for the longest time. But Pedro is an interesting bird, so to speak, because here he was as an actor who for a while was not controversial in the least, but lately people have just been thinking it's kind of odd. Like, he's in everything, absolutely in everything, and he seems to be like on an untouchable level, but exactly who is asking him for him to be in so much stuff? And Pedro, because of other stuff that I've seen from him lately, has gone from an actor who I didn't have many strong feelings towards, I didn't have any reason to have any kind of dislike, to one that I just don't, increasingly I'm not feeling very comfortable about, and it feeds into just why this Fantastic Four movie is DOA ever since they cast him. So let's get into it. So once again, Pedro Pascal, I think the big show that really rocketed him to superstardom was The Mandalorian, which is odd because he usually doesn't show his face, and just wound up doing voice recording lines for that. And The Mandalorian was never good. I know that some people liked it in the first season. It was never good, and it was never that great of a show, and it sold more for Grogu merchandise than anything. But anyway, in recent years, he is in everything. He was in Gladiator 2, Wonder Woman 1984, obviously there's going to be a Mandalorian and Grogu movie, he's in The Last of Us, and he is the MCU's new leading man. But will that create some problems for Marvel, if it hasn't already? We're going to get into all of this. So I think that the reason why Pedro Pascal gets under people's skin, or some people's skin, it could just be an echo chamber, but he's definitely getting more and more people who are annoyed with him lately because of the sheer amount of things he's in. And I think that it is more than just overexposure, because as we mentioned with Benedict Cumberbatch, there have been a lot of actors in the past who get all these role offers, they say yes to everything, and it results in them being very overexposed. And that can be a problem for an actor. But I think it's the real reason why it bothers people is because I don't think that anyone asked for Pedro Pascal to be in this much stuff. Now, I've seen him in not everything he's ever been in, but I've seen him in a fair chunk of it, and I don't find him as an actor who has all that much range, at least not in the roles I've seen recently. I haven't been really impressed by him. Like, when you are a movie star, you typically have an element that makes people want to see your movies, like you do that thing over and over again. Like Tom Cruise is a daredevil, or Jim Carrey has that comedic chops, but Pedro doesn't really have anything like that. He doesn't, he originally started out playing very masculine characters, but he typically plays characters who I would not call very masculine. Like, I haven't seen The Last of Us, so I can't speak on there, but that was one of my problems with Gladiator 2. The Mandalorian, he kind of just, once again, he literally just reads his lines and phones it in. So one might say that he's like supposed to be this big leading man character who's strong and all of that, but I don't really see that. He doesn't really have anything about him that really inspires me, like, oh, I would follow this guy in real life or anything. He's not a comedic person who's really funny or anything like that. You know, he's just Pedro Pascal, and I don't really find him that appealing in all of his roles. So that's just confusing to me of why he's in so much when I don't think that anyone was asking for it. The other thing is that he is miscast a lot of these times. Now, going back to Gladiator 2, once again, I think he was very miscast with the type of character he's been playing these days to play a Roman general who was supposed to be very successful. I didn't see anything about him that convinced me that he was a rebellious Roman general. He was not strong or assertive enough for that in that role. And then I think that the big one is Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards. And this might be one of the worst castings in comic book movie history. And the reason I say that is because there's just no way that I can see Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards. It's a mere fact of like, no matter what he does, I just cannot see him as the smartest man in the world. It's one thing to cast an actor and they just don't make good choices with that character, but this one is one where I think it's impossible. And I honestly think that the Fantastic Four movie was DOA as soon as they made that miscasting. But it's odd because he's not being asked by the public to be in all these roles. Like, it's not like he really has proven that he is that much of a draw. Has he? And people really seem to be getting annoyed with him and all the stuff that he's been brought up in, and he is miscast as these characters. He does not have that much range. But that was the reason why Pedro Pascal was starting to get under people's skin, is just he's so overexposed and it doesn't make sense. But, I mean, that is what it is. He's accepting paychecks. But there's been things that have happened that have made me more and more perplexed and uncomfortable by the guy. Now, the first thing that happened was this video that came out from Pedro Pascal at Comic-Con. So he's at Comic-Con last year, and he's with Vanessa Kirby, who's playing Sue Storm in the Fantastic Four movie. And there's video footage where, you know, he takes his hand and he kind of feels up her back and her upper arm, and she reaches out to him and holds his hand. And people thought that was odd, and people had very strong differing opinions on this, that this was perfectly fine, you know, that maybe that's just how their relationship is, maybe he just has anxiety. Other people thought that he was perhaps groping her and being inappropriate towards a co-star off camera. Now, the official thing that came out about this is that Pedro Pascal has anxiety, and that's why he was touching his co-star. I have a problem with that. I have a big problem with that excuse. Is because, well, the only way that this would be okay is if Vanessa Kirby and Pedro Pascal legitimately have this relationship consensually in real life. Maybe they're close friends, they have a very touchy-feely relationship. If it is a consensual relationship on their part, then that's fine. But that is not the excuse that we heard. We heard that it's because Pedro has anxiety. Let's just say that in my past, I may or may not have, I did have a bad experience at a job where a coworker was touching me inappropriately. And I will just say, from this bad experience, I know that when that is happening and you object to it, then it becomes deflecting. It becomes, it's not like that. I have a lot of love to give, you know. I just have anxiety. I have heard similar excuses in real life, let's just say, from people who are being inappropriate and touching when they should not. So I have a problem with that. Is saying that you have anxiety and stuff like that is not an excuse for touching your co-star like that, or, you know, crossing boundaries from someone that you are supposed to have a professional relationship with. That just bothered me. And Vanessa Kirby has not said anything about it. Once again, if this was a consensual relationship, then it would be one thing, but I have just not heard any confirmation of that. And I have a problem. Like, it's funny that we went through the entire Me Too era, and people became so much more hypersensitive, supposedly, about touching female co-stars and in the workplace and that sort of stuff. And then Pedro Pascal does it, and all of a sudden there are all of these excuses for him. Why does Pedro Pascal get a pass here? Like, I would think that this would be a huge ding on his career after the age of Me Too for him to do this, or that this would bring a lot more ire from people. But no, there were just a lot of excuses made for him. He got off scot-free from it, and he is still the top man in Hollywood right now. So that is the first thing I saw from Pedro, that beyond just being overexposed, that really rubbed me the wrong way. The touching in public. And I want to note, that was public. That was on the Comic-Con stage for everyone to see, and everyone with their cameras. It wasn't like he was doing it like it was blatantly in front for everyone to see. So it just brings about the question, like, Pedro Pascal really seems to be untouchable, and apparently he didn't acknowledge that that was something that anybody could take the wrong way, or that would bring any sort of negativity towards him. But going forward into talking about Pedro Pascal's invincibility, there's also that he's very, very open about his politics, and that has become a new thing in Hollywood that's very controversial, is being open about your politics, and that Hollywood is actually trying to rein that in and get it so people are not so politically open. It started actually with, it's been going on for a very long time, but a big one is the Gina Carano controversy, Pedro Pascal's own co-star, where she was fired for voicing her opinions on the internet, and she is actually in a lawsuit with Disney right now over that. And apparently Disney is very affected by that, and what we read behind the scenes is that is why they were not comfortable with Rachel Zegler then going forth and voicing her political opinions on the Snow White project, because they want to quiet things down because they're in a lawsuit. And what we're hearing more and more from Hollywood in general is that just people want to rein in the political opinions because here they are on a sinking ship and they can't afford to alienate anyone else. It's just not worth it to use these projects for political wars anymore. My personal opinion is you are perfectly obligated to whatever your opinion you want to have. I would think that it would be wiser as a celebrity to, make all the money you can from these projects and then use that to support organizations who are going to support your causes. I think that talking is just going to lower your platform so you can't get that money, and it might not actually change things like you think it is. But it preaches to the choir and angers the people who are already angry. It doesn't change anyone's mind. But anyway, so here we are in the midst of there being this new sort of unspoken stigma where people in Hollywood speak their political opinions less because they need to make money and they need to actually, win back the public. But Pedro Pascal is going for it. He is going and making sure that he talks about all the political opinions and that he makes statements at premieres and all of this stuff. And there's been absolutely no consequences for that. There was consequences for Rachel Zegler, there was consequences for Gina Carano, but no consequences for Pedro Pascal in this instance. Like, Disney is trying, more squeamish about their actors voicing their political opinions, but here Pedro Pascal is doing it very blatantly, and there's still nothing going against him. He is still getting all these roles, and this is another example of him just, for whatever reason, being untouchable in Hollywood and getting all these roles, even though he doesn't even fit with them all the time. But then we have this most recent thing. Now, I gotta say, Pedro Pascal is gay. Now, that isn't a shock. I know he hasn't made any sort of a formal announcement to it, and maybe he doesn't want to, but he's gay, and I've known that for a while. It's been apparent. And his sexuality and how he lives his life behind the scenes, that's entirely his business. But here is the thing that I have a problem with, is recently there was a video of him simulating an act at a Last of Us wrap party, I think it was, and that was caught on camera. Now, my problem with that is that Pedro Pascal is the leading man for a Disney family property, Fantastic Four. We also hear that he is going to be the leading man of Doomsday. Robert Downey Jr., it's really his movie, but the heroic leading man is going to be Pedro Pascal. And I don't think that that is appropriate to do publicly when you are supposed to be the face of this family brand all of a sudden. Now, let's imagine for a minute if Robert Downey Jr. or Chris Evans was caught on camera doing something like this right before the premiere of Infinity War or the first Avengers. I cannot imagine that Disney would be happy to have images like that go viral online when they are trying to promote a family film. Now, it would be one thing if Pedro Pascal, he thought he was in an underground nightclub where no one was going to see him, and then paparazzi surprised him or something, but he did this very publicly. It's at an open air wrap party or whatever it was, cameras everywhere. I believe he knew there was a camera. So he's doing this very, very openly. And once again, he doesn't seem to believe that there will be any consequences about this. And I don't know if there were. I can imagine, for anyone else, Disney would be very upset to have those images out there once again when they're trying to promote a brand to kids, because Marvel is still a brand that they heavily promote to kids. But Pedro, once again, seems completely untouchable by all of this stuff. He is still put as the main face in Hollywood right now that you see. He's said a lot of stuff that would seemingly go against Hollywood trying to rein it back in and be a little more apolitical in terms of how they're front-facing. He has had this suspicious behavior when it comes to how he's behaved with touching other people. All of this stuff around him, but he is still untouchable. I don't know that many people like him anymore, but he's still untouchable. It's very confusing to me. Now, here is what I've heard behind the scenes is just a theory that part of the reason he gets so many roles is that he's technically a diverse actor, but he is white passing. Like, he's white on the as he's visibly white, but he's actually a diverse actor with his background. And that's why he gets so many roles, because they think that they can appease the behind the scenes people by casting a diverse actor, but that they won't make anything mad by casting a guy who's visibly white. First of all, that all sounds very racist to me, but I wonder if there's more to this. I wonder if there is more reason of why Pedro Pascal all of a sudden became so untouchable in Hollywood, and why he's in everything, even though no one is asking for him to be in all this stuff, and why it seems that he can do anything that he wants and not have any damage to his career. But here's what I'm concerned about, is that Pedro has gone from an actor who didn't have strong feelings towards to being very annoyed with him being cast in roles he isn't even appropriate for, to now being a little bit uncomfortable by him. Once again, he can live in real life any way that he wants. I am just concerned. Like the Vanessa Kirby video, for example. I've seen this before with celebrities where you see some things that are a little bit suspicious and make you question anything. Maybe you don't think much more of it, and then it keeps going in that direction where they were starting to act this way in areas where it maybe wasn't appropriate for them to act that way, and it just spirals from there. And I'm going to leave it at that. Like, you guys can make your own opinions on this stuff that's coming out and all of that. But I just find the situation around him rather odd, and it's gone from, once again, an actor who I didn't have strong feelings towards to being more and more uncomfortable about him, and wondering if this is going to lead to something worse in the future, and if Marvel is going to rue the day that they cast Pedro Pascal to be Reed Richards, the new leading face of their brand, if this gets worse, if this does turn out to where my feelings of being uncomfortable about the guy are made valid. I wonder if this was another huge mistake on the Mouse's part in terms of who they have to be the face of their brand and what it's going to mean for that brand going forward. Because I think that people just already don't care about Fantastic Four, but I don't know if images like this is really what you want to show parents who are considering taking their kids to see the new Fantastic Four movie with the brand new cast starring Pedro Pascal. And I would be very curious to know if Disney is really happy about that. But what do you guys think about Pedro Pascal? Do you think I am just being paranoid by what I've seen about this guy? Do you think that my suspicions are completely incorrect? Do you think that he was the wrong idea for the new leading man for Marvel Studios? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you can support me on Patreon or memberships if you want to support my work. And I will see you guys next time.